So hello everyone. Here to talk about SalvaRX, which is a drug development company that is focused on immune-oncology. The CEO, Ian Walters, can't be here, so I'm representing him. And for reference, SalvaRX PLC is an AIM-listed company, so we have a certain amount of ritual incantations and forward-looking statements that we need to display to you whenever we speak. And I'll tell you a little bit about what cancer immunotherapy is. So previous paradigms of treating cancer focused on killing cancer cells themselves. You found a drug that either killed cancer more quickly than the rest of you, or that specifically killed cancer. Cancer immunotherapy works on a very different way. Rather than trying to kill cancer directly, it tries to get your immune system to kill cancer. And your immune system is actually quite good at doing so if it's given the right assistance. So various groups, including Citi and other major banks, have estimated cancer immunotherapy as growing to be somewhere between a $30 and an $80 billion a year market. And pharma is quite eager to acquire early-stage assets. So I work with Jim Mellon, our host, and Gregory Bailey and Declan Dugan, his business partners, to look at early-stage compounds. And we realized that there was a great inflection point between pre-proof of concept programs and post-proof of concept programs. Pre-proof of concept programs could be invested in very easily and very cheaply, but once they're through proof of concept, they're very valuable. So pharma is very interested in acquiring these companies and assets so that they can augment their existing pipeline. So the market's really shaped by Opdivo and Yervoy, which are PD-1 or CTLA-4 inhibitors. They are called checkpoint inhibitors. And right now, they've managed to do something that has been extremely rare. They've taken patients with stage 4 melanoma or late-stage lung cancer, and they've made some fraction of them survive a long period of time. Right now, it's relatively modest, 10 to 20%. Right now, pharma is interested in finding the drugs that allow them to make that 10 or 20% into 30, 40, or dare we say 100% in the future. So that is broadly the value of the market. But it's a very complex market, and immunology is particularly opaque as a science. So we did not want to go in alone and just make random investments. So we found a very qualified team that is able to sort through these early stage opportunities. Ian Walters, who would be presenting here, has spent a lot of time at Bristol Myers Squibb developing those very antibodies that are the backbone of cancer immunotherapy. He led a lot of the clinical trials and developed some important concepts such as cancer pseudoprogression, and importantly for all of us, he was on the in-licensing board at BMS. His partner, Rob Kramer, is the CSO. Rob has been in cancer immunotherapy for quite a while. He worked at BMS. He was a big champion of the Medarex acquisition, which got BMS those two assets to begin with. And then he was poached by J&J to run global preclinical oncology. So we started screening opportunities in 2014 when we had met Ian, and we realized that we wanted to invest in a portfolio of assets rather than a single asset, because 90% of all drugs that enter clinic fail. So in 2015, we invested in an Oxford spinout named IOX. But about a year later, we did an RTO onto AIM and raised £3 million. From there, we've invested in another company called Intensity, which I'll tell you about later. By April, we had secured $25 million of non-dilutive funds in order to support the development of IOX's compounds. Very recently, we did another investment where we invested into a company called Nicanal, and we did some reorganization so that all of the assets are held at a limited level. There is a public company and there is a private company which has all of the assets. And then just last week, we closed another deal with a San Diego-based biotech called Rift, and we're still looking at new deals right now. Our goal is to get somewhere between 5 and 10 assets with timing of one entering the clinic each year. So we're also looking into and exploring options on business development around the assets or other ways to finance them. So just to go over the structure, we have a public company a BVI limited company and investments into a suite of other companies. And what we like about this structure is that it allows us to dispose of assets independently. No one's going to force us to sell the whole company in order to realize favorable tax treatment of any of the different investments. And if we do sell a company, we're able to dividend cash back up to the parent level to either finance different assets or to return capital to shareholders. So to review our current portfolio, our first investment was IOX. It was an Oxford spin-out that has a set of compounds that work on a cell type called invariant natural killer T cells, the bridge between the innate and the adaptive immune system. We acquired 60% of the company, and we have not only secured non-dilutive financing for a phase 1/2 trial, which will be 60 patients and include both our drug and nivolumab in combination, and an additional grant to explore different delivery means. Intensity is a reformulation of older drugs, kind of the old bad cancer, cytotoxic cancer therapies that kill you just as quickly as, or a little bit less quickly than the tumor. But this reformulation actually allows them to generate a lot of antigen. So we've made a minority investment in here. Ian acts as their CMO as well. And by the way, Ian and Rob run or take substantial roles in almost all of these companies. There's collaboration with the U.S. National Cancer Institute, and they are working on a trial which should be entering clinic or announcing that very soon if things stay on timeline. One of our recent investments is Immune-oncology. It was founded by a Harvard professor who developed a suite of science around a target that is undisclosed, but that was very promising in autoimmune disorders. So the converse of that was that there was some cancer immunotherapy potential that they weren't able to invest or focus in because of their autoimmune focus. We did a joint venture with them around the cancer immunotherapy assets to invest up to 900,000 euros. We're running the company virtually and trying to get proof of concept as quickly as possible. This could be another checkpoint-like drug. And our most recent investment was Rift Biotherapeutics. Just last week, we acquired roughly a 30% interest. We have an option to do a further investment for so we did $1 million now. We have an option to invest another $1.5 million and a further option to acquire the whole company for stock. So the company is based in San Diego, and it's actually won a startup competition for BioLab San Diego, where Boehringer Ingelheim sponsored them to a place at a startup incubator lab. It's targeting some non-T cell focused compounds or non-T cell focused targets that change the cancer microenvironment in a favorable way, or the tumor microenvironment. So to explain why we're looking at all of these different things, there's a metaphor for how your immune system can target cancer. So you have to know where the cancer is, and it's almost like a steering wheel. Your immune system needs to be presented with antigens that it recognizes as bad. So IOX and intensity focus on that. There's also, you need to remove the brakes. And Yervoy and Opdivo, the marketed drugs by BMS, both remove those brakes. And then the final thing is stepping on the gas and actually getting T cells into the tumor. All of our compounds are somehow related to that, although I can't go into the mechanisms in too much detail. So here's where we think we'll be. So we have one phase 1/2 trial plan for IOX, and that is funded. There's a possibility to extend a related product in other tumor types. For intensity, they are working to enter the clinic. They'll be focusing on solid tumors. Nicanal and Rift are still in the discovery phase, but hopefully we'll be hearing more about them over the next 2 years. So the vision is to build a high-quality pipeline, to be able to advance 1 or 2 drugs to clinic a year, and to hopefully license or partner them or sell them after proof of concept in order to create a self-sustaining company. We're still looking at new investments that would be either synergistic with our current investments or synergistic with already marketed compounds. And we are actively trying to use BD and use either private investment into the limited company or public investment into the PLC as a means to finance the portfolio. And one of the reasons we're so excited about this space is that returns have been amazing. So pharma is very competitive in this space, and they've realized that the way to dominate the space is not just to have these checkpoint compounds like Yervoy or Opdivo, but to have the compounds to layer on top of them to get that 10, 20, or 30% up to something that is more meaningful. And as you can see, they've been quite generous with their with their M&A in the area, and upfronts have been particularly high, especially given the relatively low cost to develop any of these drugs, at least up to the point of proof of concept. So in summary, cancer immunotherapy is one of the more exciting areas in biotech right now. It's expected to grow to a very large market, and many people expect it to replace cytotoxic therapies or targeted therapies as the first line of care in cancer. We've chosen an amazing management team that is able to not only find these drugs, but develop them on a shoestring budget, in some cases with only 1.5 FTE equivalents in order to take a drug to clinic. And we'd like to build this portfolio so that we diversify away some of the asset-specific risk, because that is a big issue in biotech. 90% of drugs fail. But if you build a strong portfolio, 2 or 3 are likely to succeed, and that will more than return capital to investors. And a lot of this is driven by the intense M&A activity in the area, which should give all of us, hopefully, good return as well as the feeling of having contributed to helping cure cancer. One hopes. That's it. So I have some colleagues here. Anthony Chow, right here, and Gregory Bailey in the back are also able to answer questions. If you have any, I'll be in the back as well. Thank you all for your time.